There are essentially three reasons. Why are people not connected? If you're not connected, you're not going to be part of the AI revolution, but AI is also part of the solution. I can lock the door so that that door is secure. I make sure I don't lose the key and that it's not copied. But if someone else leaves the window open or the back door open, the thief is still going to get in. We work for the benefit of billions.
Hi, this is Danish from Moneycontrol, and today joining us Mr. Vivek Badrinath, who is the Director General of GSMA, which is a global body of telecom operator and the larger digital ecosystem. And he's a seasoned leader, and he worked with the global telecom operators, and we are going to discuss what GSMA is doing at the global level and how does it see the Indian market. So thanks for joining in.
Thanks,
Vivek.
Danish. Thank you very much.
So I would like to start the podcast by seeking your views on India's telecom industry. GSMA is fairly active, and you keep on meeting all the stakeholders. So what sort of trends you are seeing in India right now from a digital transformation, from a telecom industry growth perspective?
Well, I think the journey that India has embarked upon is indeed very, very impressive. If you look at a few achievements that have been repeated many times during this IMC, you see great progress. When you have 365 million people connected to 5G, that's a very rapid rollout. Coverage, the efforts that the operators have made in a very tense and tight spectrum environment to actually generate coverage across the country are very commendable. And I think through the combination of tower companies and the efforts of the players, you've got 99% 4G coverage. That's very powerful. 82% 5G coverage. These are all good numbers. So this pace of growth is something that should be very encouraging, and we all can visualize a big influence of this connectivity on the day-to-day life of citizens. But the glass is not completely full, and that's what it's all about. We brought out a report on Digital Nation India, where it's coming out this week, which aims to I would say characterize a bit some of the areas where things can be done. I think there's a few areas that are still to be explored, and the main one is the usage gap. We still have 690 million people who, we have a lot of people who have phones, but 690 million people don't have a smartphone that enables them to connect to the internet. So there is still a pretty high usage gap. 47% is a lot. And actually it's not just a usage gap, it's also a gender gap. 33% more chances that a woman will not be connected than a man. So I think there are deep societal impacts behind this, and also economic impacts, because these are people who are not empowered, and the vision of the government is to have them empowered through digital, and there's still work to be done in that area.
Right. So what sort of interventions you think are required from the government side, from the private industry side? What sort of mechanisms GSMA is advocating for the Indian market?
So if you look at the usage gap, there are essentially three reasons. Why are people not connected? The first one is the availability of smartphones. We know the Indian market has done very well on the cost levels of data. So that is not the hindrance, or to a lesser extent than many other places. If you're really at the very low below the poverty line, I guess these are issues that will arise. But overall, at a global level, the price of data is very competitive in India. The Prime Minister yesterday compared it to the price of a cup of tea for a gigabyte, so it tells you something. But the availability of affordable smartphones through recycling, through a very proactive policy on reducing taxes, understanding that it's an essential good for people to get online, is the first order of business. Second area is skilling. We drive programs to increase internet skilling. We've had 80 million people involved. The operators are driving very interesting initiatives in this area. There's more to be done. You really need, and the issue is that you need to teach people who are not connected that it's worthwhile for them to be connected. And since they're not connected, you have to get to them.
Right.
And it makes it even harder. That's the second reason. The third area is the relevance of content. The relevance of content also means language. And there I would like to insist on the fact that everybody's talking about AI today and the AI divide and the access to AI and the ability to learn, progress and get involved in the AI revolution. If you're not connected, you're not going to be part of the AI revolution. But AI is also part of the solution, because AI enables you to do voice-enabled services in the languages of choice. So it is an important area to keep investing on. So initiatives on getting AI in local languages, getting voice-activated services using AI are things that can help this usage gap. And then the last one is the other cause for not getting connected is fear.
Okay.
50% of Indians have been scammed at least once online. And more than close to 15%, if I remember well, in the last year alone. So it's a big issue. And I think that's an industry issue, but it's not a telecom industry issue. It's a tech and telecom industry issue. And it needs everybody to chip in, because if people are scared of getting online because bad things will happen to them, they will not be empowered by digital.
Right, right. So speaking of scams, a lot of initiatives have been taken by telecom operators like Bharti Airtel. Jio has also announced, Vodafone is also doing. Then the regulator also has a policy and a concentrated effort towards curbing the cyber scam. How do you see this whole effort towards kind of curbing the scams? And do you think that more efforts are required beyond telecom industry, as you just mentioned, because there are more industries which need to come together and find a right solution? How do you see India combating this? And are there other countries which are doing the same thing and India can learn from them, or rather India can export those mechanisms to other markets to combat fraud?
I would say both. Danish, you're spot on. I'll take a very simple analogy. I can lock the door so that that door is secure. I make sure I don't lose the key and that it's not copied. But if someone else leaves the window open or the back door open, the thief is still going to get in. And when you look at scams, they typically involve three types of actors. At one level, it's the connectivity, and that's the operator. At another level, it's a service, because usually the scam goes through a social network, or it can be voice scams, but it very often is also about being phished or hooked through a service, through a platform, through an app that is being used by people. And then at the end, it's all about money, and which means money changes hands, which means that somewhere, somehow, for electronic money, it goes through the banking system. So this has to be a holistic view. And what we're seeing everywhere is that when the three types of players get together around the table to look at how they can collaborate, and what they can bring to this securing exercise, that's what works. And it's a very basic idea that operators can provide, for instance, through our Open Gateway initiative, an API that helps banks to see when a call looks like a phishing or scam call. The scam signal API is available to provide that. Well, we can provide that signal, but we only have part of the information. We can say this phone call looks suspicious, but we can't say it is bad. And in many cases, there are false positives or false negatives as well. So the bank needs to use it. So collaboration between the players, not finger pointing, but indeed working together to secure the overall environment is what is the order of business. And we stand ready with our scam task force to bring multi-stakeholder dialogues together with the government, because this is something that is important both for society. It creates a lot of harm. It hurts people. So it is important that everybody comes together to address it.
Right. GSMA also interacts with the Indian stakeholders, including the regulator and the DOT telecom department, on policy formation. Around spectrum, are there specific recommendations? Now, everyone is currently working on 6G standards, but we need to identify bands. So what is GSMA advocating in terms of spectrum policy? We have our own spectrum roadmap. Are there suggestions from the GSMA side?
I would say today India honestly is at the forefront with the decision to open up the upper 6 gigahertz band to mobile. We, and nowhere else in the world would this statement be so true. I mean, there's one other place where it would be true. We work for the benefit of billions, which means that when spectrum is given to mobile operators, it is a common good that is put to the use for the wider population. And I think that's extremely important, that when you have an asset of this value, and there's fewer and fewer open spots on the spectrum map, it should be used for the wide population. So when India says, let's open up 6 gigahertz upper band and put it to work for the people, I think that's a good decision. Technically, speed of rollout, etc., those will all fall in place. But India has sent the signal. Not all countries have done so.
Right.
So I think there we've had we're very happy with what has been done, because it's a good signal for the others. So it's a good idea to export.
Right. You speak about you just mentioned connecting billions, and in India, we are now opening the ecosystem for SATCOM services. India has granted licenses to Starlink, OneWeb, and GSMA combined. So how do you see the whole development? Do you think that this could be a game changer in connecting people who so far are not on internet?
In my view, first of all, I have a lot of appreciation and respect for what's being done in the satellite space. If you had told me 10 years ago that you could be doing direct-to-device to a bird in the sky, I would have said that looks very complicated from a link budget physics point of view. And I think the efforts that have been put into these technologies are remarkable. That said, they address primarily the coverage gap.
Okay.
Which is not the biggest ailment of the Indian industry today. I mean, there's been a lot of investment. The operators have gone out there, and I think lots of efforts are being done to provide rural coverage, rural fiber optics, connecting villages and panchayats across the country. And I think those are all, so the coverage and rural divide issue is not maybe the most pressing. There still will be places, where fixed broadband will not be economically available, but I would say for the mobile industry, the coverage gap is not the biggest issue. My biggest concern in India is the usage gap for connectivity and for smartphones.
Right.
And the satellite is not going to put a smartphone in your hand.
Right.
It does a lot of good things. I think the domain in which satellite solves the connectivity problem has increased. There are more places where you can economically provide that service, and it's good. But let's not lose sight of the main thing, which is that spectrum used for the benefit of billions is spectrum given to the mobile operators.
Last question on 5G monetization. India saw the fastest 5G rollout, and now the telcos also increased tariffs to increase their shore of their ARPUs. Do you think that more needs to be done to identify the use cases, relevant use cases to unlock monetization? And also with monetization, I have a question on private 5G networks. Do you think that it has still not developed the way we had expected it to be at the global level in terms of what it could unlock?
I'd say there's one reason for optimism and one reason for pragmatism. The reason for optimism is that in many countries in the world, 5G rollout has not happened at this pace, right? So you've already got 82%. So now, in quotes, for an industrial player, there's no excuse not to use 5G to roll out products, projects, services, infrastructure, acceleration, modernization projects.
Right.
In other countries, you're not always in as good a situation. You have countries where 5G rollout has progressed much slower, is focused into high density areas. Basically, it's been rolled out like 4G was rolled out for the big internet users. But if you want industrial 5G, the factories are not always in the center of towns, and they're seldom in the center of towns.
Right.
So you need to provide the infrastructure. I think a big step has been accomplished at a fast pace in India in the last few years, and that's great news. So that's the positive side. So it's not a chicken and egg issue in India. It's not I would do 5G industrial, I would modernize my factory if I had 5G in my factory. No, the 5G is there. But we've got to recognize that connectivity is only, once again, a part of the chain. When you need to have connectivity to do 5G enabled industrial applications. You need to have standalone 5G to do slicing, to do all these features that help you to modernize your company, your port, your railway equipment, your factory, your hospital. But you still have to roll out those projects. It still means a lot of IT. You need to put the software, you need to put the machines, sometimes you need to put the robots, and all that takes much more time than simply going into a shop and buying a better phone.
Right.
So I think there was never any doubt that this 5G monetization would take longer than the 4G monetization. Because the 4G monetization was about the consumer. So to get 4G used, you just have to wait for a device cycle to complete, where people change their phones to the next one, which offers 4G. In this case, it takes longer.
Sure. Any last concluding comment on the IMC, this event? Anything that you want to highlight in terms of what you have seen in terms of meeting stakeholders, or any theme that caught your attention?
I'd say two things came out very clearly. One, good energy. There is progress in the Indian telecom sector. There have been tougher times in the history of this sector over the years, and this is one where you can see the main players gaining a strong footing and moving forward with initiative, with ambition. The other side, I think this whole message about India being an exporter, a provider of technology as much as a receiver, I think is very, very pleasant to see. It was a lot about, in the past we used to talk about, please invest in India and give us your technology so that we can modernize the country. Today, I'd say the footing has changed, and it's a very good thing. We're in a global standard. I think one of our biggest treasures is the fact that the GSM standard has evolved to 4G and then 5G, and that 4G and 5G are indeed global. What makes it relevant that it's global? It's scale. So a billion Indians, more than a billion Chinese. That creates that economy of scale that makes this technology affordable for the many. And also it's intelligence. If you get great ideas and IP from India, from the US, from China, from Europe, all this IP will create the best technology to power this industry for the future.
Since you spoke about IP coming out from India, the government spoke about the own 4G stack, which BSNL is deploying. Any comments, any observation on that?
It's a good initiative. It's ambitious. It's a long journey. So there's still way to go, because we've reached the 4G stack. We need to get to the 5G stack. I think there are lots of smart people who have taken innovative approaches and architectures. Wish them well, and I think it's important for the ecosystem to have more people bringing good ideas into the technology. This will help 5G monetization, because it will also help to add features to our data stacks.
Right. Well, on that note, we can safely conclude this chat. Thank you very much, Badri, for doing this. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Danish. Thanks for your time.